Okay. Do you support keeping the resident state trooper and Regional 7 resource officer? Why or why not? Mrs. Simon, you're first.
Close enough? I think so now. The short answer there is I do believe we need to have some form of police presence necessary in our town on a daily basis. I think the mere presence of an officer is sometimes a deterrence to things that could be happening or may have happened, but probably would not have happened had they seen the officer drive by. I grew up in Milford, Connecticut as the daughter of a policeman. I always looked up to him and was raised with a strong code of ethics. I was so proud of him when I was young. Everyone in school would say, wow, when they heard my father was a police officer. But I would like to let you know that I grew up during the 60s. And then seems to be a resurgence of this. At that time, and as now in the late 60s, police somehow became regarded as enemies. It was popular at the time to call an officer a pig. I cringed when I heard that. Every once in a while I'd walk past my father while he was directing traffic and I'd hear people shout out the window that he was a pig. And I'd say, nope, my father's no pig. Police face danger all the time, even for a simple thing as a traffic stop. We owe much to the services they provide. I know that cost has been an issue for the town, and if there were other ways to provide as much protection as having the presence of an officer as we do now, and we could do it for less money, I'm sure that it probably would have been discovered by now.
Mr. Stein, do you support keeping the resident trooper and Regional 7 resource officer? Why or why not?
Clearly, I think everybody here knows my position on that subject. I used to tell people when I traveled for business and I wasn't in town as much as I am now, I thought we were a very sleepy little town. But if you sat in my office and you saw the activity in the resident trooper's office, which is next to mine, you would quickly learn that we're not as sleepy as we'd like to believe we are. We have 48 miles of road. Hartford has 82 miles. Heartland has 25. If you add all that up, if we only relied on the state police patrol, that means they would be covering about 150 miles of roads and about 140 square miles of territory, which is what they do. When you have the resident trooper, if something happens at night or on the weekend, he picks up on it when he comes in the next day on Monday morning or Tuesday morning, whenever it happens. So you have continuity, you have a trooper that knows the people in town, you have a school resource officer that we can only have if we have a resident trooper. The school resource officer is paid for by Regional 7. We pay our share of it as part of the Regional 7 program. It costs us roughly $50,000 a year out of our budget, but then we're reimbursed all of that, and we pay about 25% of that as part of our Regional 7 allocation. But as I said earlier, the trooper costs us right now about $165,000 a year. If you do the math, that's $8 per month per household for public safety. To me, it's a small price to pay. I have met with the Winstead chief of police. I've talked to the town manager in Winstead. The only way Winstead can provide services is if we're no longer a state police town. That would probably cost us between $500,000 and $1 million to get full police coverage. I've talked to New Hartford on several occasions, along with the commander of the Canaan Barracks. I've talked to the state police commissioner. We can share a trooper with New Hartford. The only problem is New Hartford doesn't want to share a trooper with us. So you can't share with somebody who doesn't want to share. They have a full-time trooper. They have 4 full-time constables for what goes on in New Hartford, which is, they have about 34 arrests a year. I'm sorry, they have about 48 arrests per year. We have 34. We have 18 serious offenses a year. They have 31. So the reason they have more police is because they have more roads, they have more area. The reason we have one and we can get away with it is because he really has gotten to know the town, he gets to know the people, he gets to know the students. So I think eliminating the resident trooper without a viable option that is clearly legal within the state, and not just having a selectman who happens to be a policeman and a very good policeman, you need somebody who is a policeman who has the jurisdiction, who has the knowledge, who is a full-time employee of the town. And we do manage his hours. And when he goes on vacation, he reports to the troop, but the shift he works is set by the first selectman. He worked for the first selectman, who was technically the chief of police in the town. So yeah, I believe we need it. I believe we'd be doing this residents a disservice if we eliminated it. Thank you.
Mr. Hemingway, same question to you. Do you support keeping the resident trooper and Regional 7 resource officer?
I support what's best for town. So whether it be we keep the trooper, whether it be we find another solution, whether we find that we go to a part-time trooper, we share one of the other towns, whether we hire an additional constable, I support what's best for our town. I support what's best for Region 7 and the kids. The bottom line is that it's a very expensive item, and from going door to door in town, I hear a lot of people with a lot of different opinions. I hear some people say we don't need them at all. I hear some people say we can't live without them. And I think that somewhere in the middle is probably what we really need. But that's not a decision for me. That's not a decision for whoever's sitting in that first selectman's office. That's a decision for you and every other voter in the town of Barkhamsted. What I would say and what I would want to do is, number one, yes, I am running with somebody who's got a public safety background. Why? Because I don't have a public safety background. Don, as chief of police, has no public safety background. And we need somebody who's got some expertise. And why are we going to do that? Because we're going to try and find several solutions, and then we would put it to referendum where everybody would get a vote. I'm not going to make the decision. Whoever's the first selectman's not going to make the decision. You're going to make the decision. That's what's important, okay? This is too much of a critical item that the first selectman would just decide based on a dollar amount or personal opinion. I think it needs to go out to referendum, and that's what I would tell you I will do. If you put me in office, by the end of the first year, you will have a chance to vote on what you want to do with that money.
Our next question. On the national level, the country is divided with partisan disagreements. How will you work with town residents from the opposing party? How have you handled disagreements regarding town decisions in the past? Mr. Stein, you first.
I'll get to that in just a second. When Mark said do a referendum, I would point out we've had at least 2 referendums on this subject in the past. If there's a viable alternative, I would certainly support a referendum. But I would also point out that at the town meetings, this is presented every year, and there is not a single vote against keeping it in the budget. But getting to the other question, again, I'll stand on my record both in town and in Hartford. Thank goodness I don't go to Washington because I don't think I could stand that. But when I go to Hartford and I testify, I know Democratic legislators, I know Republican legislators. I have a very close working relationship with Senator Witkos and Representative Szymanski, both of whom are the opposite party. So I think within the town should be blind to the political party. One of the longtime residents in town said he thought that politics should only last 6 weeks every 2 years. So 6 weeks before the election, and as soon as the election is over, party politics should absolutely disappear from the town. So I endorse that concept. I think my record shows that I've worked with both sides. I've worked with chairmen of commissions who are Republican. I've worked with chairmen of commission who are Democrat. I don't really care. If I walk in a room half the time, I don't know who's from what party. I think that's the way it has to be, the way it should be. And I think if you examine how I've operated in the state, in the region, and in the town, I've always operated that way. So I think we just need to recognize that at the local level, local politics are about the people, what they want to contribute to the town, and not whether they were an R, a D, a G, an I, or any other letter on their sleeve. With that, I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
Mr. Hemingway, how will you work with town residents from the opposing party? How have you handled disagreements regarding town decisions in the past?
Thank you. Disagreements, I think, are part of the American way. That's one of the reasons why we live in this country. You can have a disagreement with somebody, and you get to speak your mind, you get to vote what you want to do. That's the democratic way. So, as far as I'm concerned, Don's right. One of the things about like or not like our current president, he's still our president. And the president before you may not have liked, and the president before that, a lot of people didn't like, but they're still our president, and there's an amount of respect that goes for that office, right? So, the old saying, when the people have spoken, so if they put somebody in office good or bad, I think you owe them that respect for that office for the next 4 years. And that goes along with everybody that volunteers, and Don said it very well. Once you get to the board level and you find a volunteer, does it really matter what their affiliation is? And quite honestly, at the local level, the affiliation is pretty much a moot point, I think. We're all out there for the same thing. Good schools, clean air, clean water, and everybody wants to live in a safe town that everybody can get along in, right? So, Don and I may not always get along with things, but I've served with him for 6 years, and I think typically there's only maybe 1 or 2 items a year that we don't find middle ground and agree to something. And you can look at the minutes and the votes on the website, and that'll prove it out. Typically, the few things that we do disagree on are the budget. I want us to go in at a 0 increase, and Don's okay with some sort of an increase. So that's just the American way. 2 different parties, okay? So as far as it comes with how are you going to work with different people and different party affiliations, I really don't think it's all that significant of a point. Our goal here is to gain transparency, build on the work that's already been done for the many years of all the great people that have already served Barkhamsted, and continue to look for fiscal conservative activity, and move towards something that we can all continue to be proud of.
Mr. Simon, how will you work with town residents from the opposing party? How will you handle disagreements regarding town decisions in the past?
I don't know if I have to answer this question because I don't really have an opposing party. I'm an affiliated candidate. But I will say this. I'm getting more and more tired every day when I watch the television set. I'm very, very dismayed at the gridlock that seems to occur, whether it's between people that are black, people that are white, people that are from the red party, the blue party. I'm hoping that we can put those differences aside, especially in a small town like ours, where our goal should really be what's best for our town. We have to start at home, and hopefully we can improve the bigger picture in the state and country. So if we start at home trying to understand each other better, I think we have a much better chance of getting things accomplished. You really need to take time to stop and listen to what another person says. Many times and I thought about this the other day, that there's all kinds of different people in the world, and people think in different ways. And there's people that think, we've got the left brain, right brain idea, but there's people that gather information and then send it on to others in different ways. And sometimes we're not really quite on the same page, even for listening to each other. So that can also cause misunderstandings. Also, I believe that it's pretty easy to sit at home and say, I'm really not happy with what that person decided to do. But most issues are not black and white. Most issues are pretty complex and have lots of angles to them. And if they could really bend in another person's shoes and know what they had to think about to come to the decision that they made, you really probably might not even have the right to complain. So one thing that I'm still trying to bring forward to tell people is, I think the town of Barkhamsted and all its commissions would truly be happy if more and more residents would occasionally show up at some of these meetings and put in your 2 cents worth. Even just a new idea is sometimes truly appreciated. Otherwise, these poor people who volunteer all their hours, they're 5 people that have to decide for all of us. So I just really would like to encourage everyone to work together. Thank you.
Brings us to our last question. A larger business base would help to ease the tax burden on homeowners. What ideas do you have to, 1, help the businesses who are already here be successful, and 2, attract new businesses, particularly along Route 44? Simon, this is your question.
Well, I'm thinking that times are changing in the future for the state of Connecticut and elsewhere, that focus on brick and mortar stores is really going to have not be the answer. I think that our town in particular should think of building on our uniqueness, encouraging more tourist industry, such as bed and breakfasts and restaurants and that sort of thing, for the fishermen and the hunters who come here. I think we have a lot of people who come through town, especially in the summertime, for fishing, hunting, swimming, tubing, and all those other things, canoeing. But of course, sometimes they're also just passing through town at a fast rate of speed on their canoe. I think we need to put our heads together and think of a way to possibly get them to come out of the river and spend some money in town. So that's one of my ideas for trying to get more businesses in town. There would be small businesses like restaurants or B&Bs and that kind of thing. But I've also thought about the existing Mallory Brook Mall, and could never possibly be, upgraded, updated, have shops and restaurants, be sort of a focal point of, again, like artist shops or craft shops, small businesses, things that people would travel maybe from New York City or whatever to see. If we could maintain our special appeal of a beautiful town with a lot of aesthetics, I think we should work towards that. And one thing I've thought of in the past, and putting around a little bit here and there, there's a couple of towns in our country that has an annual vulture festival. And we're lucky here. We have a group of turkey vultures who fly up and down our river all spring and summer and disappear for the winter. They come back. It's one of the first signs of spring. Usually it's around March 1st or 2nd. I see my first turkey vulture in the sky. A lot of people will look up and say, is that a hawk? Is that an eagle? I say, no, it's a vulture. I've often said, maybe Barkhamsted ought to have an annual a turkey vulture festival so that we could have, use the Brewerton Fairgrounds again for another type of festival. Maybe a parade, encourage the kids to have costume contests. Kids love to look scary, maybe we can get some ideas and more people to visit the town. In fact, probably about the beginning of March, everyone's sick of winter around here. If there isn't a 7-foot snowstorm, people would be happy to get out. Okay, thanks for your time.
Mr. Hemingway, how will you help businesses who are already here be successful? And how are you going to attract new businesses, particularly on Route 44?
Thank you. So this is a tough one that I don't think can be spit out in 3 minutes, but first off, if anybody reads the news, watches TV, they know that the brick and mortar retail world is no longer there. Amazon is crushing it. And Amazon has a huge place just over the mountain by the airport. So no, I don't think that moving towards a Route 44 with a bunch of retail outlets is the way to go. I think that actually takes away from our town. What I do think we need to do is look more towards going back to our roots. Maybe it is something along the lines of an organic farming business that feeds into our history. Maybe it is that we find a way, and I think this is something we're going to have to really get some folks involved that have a real background in this. Maybe we find a way to refurbish the Mallory Brook so it's something we're all proud of and not damaged. And along those lines, I think, why doesn't Barkhamsted have its own business park? We have property, for example, behind Mallory Brook next to Region 7 that's got an environmental issue. So why don't we get that cleaned up and turn that into our own industrial park? And when I say industrial, I'm not talking about a big factory. If anybody's gone to the Winchester Park, to the Cobra Park, that gives them a lot of tax base, okay? But it gives them a lot, still, it preserves that open look, that open space. And as part of that potential, maybe we could get some of that sewer work that's been talked about for 10 years. Don ran out a ticket in 2007 that he was going to put sewers in, okay? It's very difficult to get it done. He knows firsthand that it's not something that the town has money to go spend. We have to have a reason to go do that project. Partly, secondly, Deb brings up a perfect reason. Let's keep our charm. Let's promote tourism. Let's work on Riverton. Let's find a reason for people to actually go to Pleasant Valley. Right now, we've got a real challenge here. We've got a building that was empty for 2 or 3 years and a store that's now trying to reestablish itself. We've got a bed and breakfast that's just getting off and going. I think that's the key is if we want to keep what we have, we got to promote what we have, and we got to figure out how to promote it better, but yet find ways that are not going to change the whole our culture. So maybe it is a business park. Maybe it is doing some of the other things, but we also need to promote and take care of the businesses we do have. Rob Lombard would go down to Town Hall and chew on Don's ear that when's he going to get his sewers? Well, it's a fair question, right? We probably would have already had them already if the Mallory Brook didn't go through a change of ownership due to foreclosure. There's a lot of things like that that are out of our control, but what can we do as a town to make them a little better? So as I say to you today, I'm open to step back, I'm open to ideas, and I have a few of my own, and I'd love to champion them with you.
Mr. Stein, how will you help businesses who are already here be successful, and how will you attract new businesses?
Mark is right. We talked about sewers 10 years ago. We were within days of having the sewers built when there was a proposal to put a medical center in where the two new stores are. And that fell apart because Charlotte Hungerford didn't have the resources to put the emergency room in. Where we are today right now with Mallory Brook is they are in foreclosure. We have a very active relationship now with the town of Winchester, with the property manager, and we're looking at ways to bring the sewers in now because Rob Lombard is in my office a lot saying we need the sewers. If we're going to do anything there, and I'm not thinking necessarily retail, but just keeping that site alive and keeping it from going bankrupt and being shut down, we must have sewers there. They were a failing septic system. It was designed 30 or 40 years ago, just plain doesn't work. So if we're going to do anything in that area, we have to bring the sewers in. And I'm hoping that we can find a way working with, day by day now, with the Lombard Ford and with the property management as well. What we do have is we have tax incentives in place for anybody who wants to make a capital improvement in the town and wants to spend money. We're trying to foster home businesses. There's an initiative in the region to look at better internet for those who want to work from home, get better Wi-Fi, get better cell phone coverage, because there are places in town, like Riverton, where if you get a signal, you're very fortunate because there's no real coverage there. I've talked several times with the owner of the farm behind the wall. It's something we're forming a housing trust to look at maybe putting some seniors housing in there. If you could put some nice little shops, some nice little artist galleries in there, all in the same general area with the housing, that would be a big plus to the town. But I think what we're all forgetting is we do depend on the tourists, we depend on the fishing, we depend on the hunters, we depend on the people who come here for the natural beauty. One of the things we do have is we have a very, very strong sense of volunteerism in the town. The Lions Club just finished a haunted house that probably brought 600 or 700 people to town, to Riverton. There were merchants lined up to sell baked goods, to promote the dance studio, things like that associated with the haunted house. We had a music festival last summer that had about 500 people in total, which was the goal for the organizer. She's going to do another one next summer. That brings tourists into Riverton. The Riverton Fair brings, depending on the weather, I don't know what it was this year, but probably 15,000 people into Riverton and into town. Christmas in Riverton, we need to promote. We promote the natural beauty with an organization called FAUST, the Friends of American Legion People State Forest. They sponsor hikes, they sponsor tours, they do an awful lot of things. And the town is based on the goodwill of these volunteers and the energy they put into the town. And I agree with both Deb and Mark. I would rather see 200 people in a room than a town meeting that has 20 people. And we publicize them every way we can. If anybody has a better idea how to get 200 people to a town meeting, that would be a win-win for everybody involved. So we do have a lot of things. The more ideas we get, the better the ideas, taking advantage of our natural beauty, but also we have to look at the financial aspects. So I think we have an opportunity that we need to take advantage of.
We're now going to move to closing statements. These are going to be 3-minute statements for each candidate. They're going to speak in the reverse order of their opening statement. So, Mr. Stein, this time you're first.
First thing is, I would like to thank everybody for being here, participating, and listening respectfully. I've been in other meetings when it hasn't been so respectful, so this was really good. I really hope you learn more about each of us and the knowledge is useful when you come out to vote. And please, everybody, no matter who you're going to vote for, vote on November 7th, because the worst thing that I can see is a voter turnout that is not suitable for the magnitude of the election. And remind your friends and neighbors that they need to vote. All the candidates love Barkhamsted. They moved here due to the special environment. Nobody wants to harm it. But I think what we have to look at in a first selectman candidate is you have to be conversant with a lot of of different aspects of the town. You need to understand finance. You need to look at, you talk about economic development. You need to look at zoning and regulatory issues that both promote the town at the same time restrict the wrong kinds of uses. We need smart growth so that if somebody does want to develop their property, they do it in a way that is not harmful to the environment and to their neighbors. First Selectman has to be able to work with people regardless of party affiliation. You have to participate in a variety of organizations for the benefit of the town. I think I've done that. I've done it out of a love for the town and an interest in giving back to the community. You know, we talked about the Little League field. Some of my fondest memories of over 30 years ago was spending almost 2 summers going. I feel I see Harry shaking his head. He was part of that. You know, there was so many people who gave to the town just out of love for the town. And I think it's everybody's responsibility to leave the town a better place than they found it. I really didn't plan to be first selectman. I'm thrilled at having the opportunity to serve everybody for the last 10 years. So this is not a political issue. It's about who's the best leader, who has the energy to go forward, who is going to be best at preserving the environment, the finances, the economics, the personnel issues, the public safety, the road improvements. It's a very diverse job. And you do have to devote your full attention to it because otherwise the residents will become second place and they deserve better than that. The other thing I did want to mention is Ray Peck, who was running with me, who's sitting over there, who many of you know, is running for his 4th term on the board. He exemplifies that spirit of volunteerism, dedication to the town, getting involved in other organizations. He's working with the nonprofit housing trust to try to form for better housing for millennials, 2 seniors. He's been very active in our emergency management team. And I would also like to recommend, if you get a chance, there'll be a mailer, you probably have a mailer already, look at our entire slate of candidates, the Board of Ed candidates, the Regional 7 candidate, the Board of Finance folks. We have a very impressive group of very dedicated people, and I'm happy to put them on our slate. But most of all, I would like to ask you all to give me 2 more years to continue the kind of progress we made over the last 10. And I think that I have the energy and the interest in doing that. And we have a lot of initiatives that didn't get spoken about tonight underway. And I'd like to finish those in the next couple of years. Thank you.
Mr. Simon.
Well, I think now that you know a little bit more about me, my goals and commitment to this town, I hope you would consider choosing me as a new leader of the town. But win or lose, I will continue to show up, stand up, and speak up. I encourage you to do so. Speak up for whatever matters to you. You can sign up on the town's website to be informed of important town meetings and view current agendas for all commissions. Get involved in local decision-making. I believe all town commissions would welcome residents and their input at their meetings. Let's encourage cooperation and new ideas to find solutions to keep our campsite wild, scenic, and affordable for all. And as Gandhi once said, be the change you would like to see in the world. I invite anyone with further questions to contact me at any time. I do have a Gmail account. It's called greenwoodsinfo1@gmail.com, or you can call me at home at 860-738-4756. My husband will be passing out flyers to anyone who's interested at the end of this debate by the door, and it has contact information there in case you have questions further for me that I wasn't able to answer for you tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Henry.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Sullivan for moderating this wonderful event and the Barkhamsted Women's Club for putting it on even through all the challenges we've had. Second, I'd like to wish my fellow candidates for being here tonight. Deb Simon for putting herself out there. It's certainly not easy to speak in front of a crowd. And Don for his 10 years of service. It's commendable for anybody that has 10 years of service with anything. So, most importantly, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to be here tonight and being involved in the process that impacts us all. It's my sincere hope that each of you will encourage others who may not have been here to attend tonight to exercise their rights to vote and come out to the polls on November 7th. I know we're going to be looking for everybody to be here. To continue, to me, it felt like a natural progression to run for the first selectman post because I knew that I could and should do more than my original positions allowed me. The incumbent would like you to believe that he is the only candidate who can fulfill the duties of first selectman, as he devotes full-time hours to the position. Are there times when this job requires full-time work? Absolutely. But generally speaking, the job is not consistently full-time. I have the good fortune to work from my home and manage a group of salespeople based across the country for a Seattle-based software company. I do this, and my schedule allows me to be very flexible. It's allowed me to attend many meetings at Town Hall. It also allows me to run down to Town Hall and sign checks or other things I need done. Just recently, Don had a personal issue, and I covered the tax sale with Ray Peck. Don wasn't there. We covered it. So, believe me, I have the flexibility. I can do the job. As we end this debate, I want all of you to know that no matter what the outcome is on election day, I've been very proud to serve the town of Barkhamsted, and all of you as selectmen. This town is special, and I think we owe it to our community to do better, to be fiscally responsible during the challenging economic times. I recently read in the newspaper that one of the other towns called this cautious times. I agree with that. They are cautious times, and I think we need to be a little more cautious. I'd also like to mention a few other things. Number one, the cost of living that Don mentioned in his opening statement. The actual municipal budget right now, if you take out the two recession years, is up 18%, 18.8 to be exact, and that's coming from the Connecticut Mirror. And the cost of inflation in Litchfield County, 6%. 18.8 against 6% on that municipal budget. You make the decision. I'd also like to mention that this is a wonderful town, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to serve you all, and I hope you'll think of me on November 7th. Thank you.
You've been a wonderful audience, and now if you'll join me, let's give all of our candidates a round of applause. Everyone, we hope to see you all on election day.